Have you ever felt like life just stopped moving?
Ugh, I'm so over it!
If you're in that in-between place right now, stick with me, because in this video I'm going to show you that you're not doing anything wrong. It's just that your life is planning something beneath the stillness. And with just a few simple steps, you can work with it to get going again. So when life slows down like this, it's easy to think you've fallen behind. But what's really happening is that your system, your life, your energy, your identity is reorganizing itself. You've outgrown something, maybe a role or routine or a version of yourself that doesn't quite fit anymore. And even though that next version is forming, it hasn't fully taken shape yet. So it feels like you're standing still, but really you're in a kind of reassembly line. The pause isn't a mistake. It's part of the overall rhythm. And if you can stop fighting it long enough to just listen to it, you'll start to notice small signs of what's trying to emerge. That's what these quiet seasons are for. They strip away the noise so you can recalibrate, not just your plans, but your direction and your pace and your sense of what matters. Now, this all sounds good in theory, I know. But when you're the one in it, when you're in this stuck place and you're waking up every day feeling like you don't know where you're going, you're directionless or behind, it doesn't feel purposeful. It feels awful. I get that. I've been there. So let's talk about why it feels so bad, because once we can see this differently, the heaviness starts to lift almost instantly. So when life slows down or changes direction, one of the hardest parts is that all your old reference points disappear. The things that used to define you, your job, your goals, your routine, the people who needed you, maybe they aren't the same now. It's kind of like walking through a city after all the street signs have been taken down. You might still be moving, but you have no idea where you are or how to measure your progress. And it's really unsettling. That's what happens when your old structure falls away. Your brain loses the feedback that it used to rely on to tell you that you're doing okay. So it starts sending danger signals instead, because this is always what the brain fills the unknown with: anxiety and fear and stress and confusion. And it's not because anything's wrong necessarily. It's just because the old map no longer matches the new terrain. When I left the corporate world, for example, to run my own business, I thought I'd feel free. And in some ways I did, but without the structure and the expectations and the regular salary and the environment and the boss, without all that, I started to feel unmoored a little bit. I mean, unsettled. I was still working hard, maybe even harder than I was at the corporation, but there was no one handing me a gold star at the end of the day. There was no acknowledgement, there was no bonus, there was no proof that I was doing it right. The same thing often happens in midlife. Maybe the kids are grown, or the career that once defined you doesn't feel the same anymore. The external markers of our identity, what we do, who we care for, what others expect from us, start to fade at certain points in our lives. So you're still you, but the mirror that you used to see yourself through has changed. And it's disorienting to realize how much of our sense of self is tied to these roles or these routines. And that's what happens when the old structure falls away. Our brain loses that feedback that it used to rely on to tell us that we're doing okay. The other thing that can be tough about this kind of period where there's like a pause, we're stuck, and we feel like we should be moving, but we're not moving. That's actually not a bad thing, but we think that it is. Because in our culture, most of us were wired for motion. Most of us were raised to believe that movement equals progress. I mean, we've been rewarded our whole lives for staying busy or producing results and checking boxes. So when life suddenly pauses, even for a good reason, it can feel wrong, like we're wasting time or losing ground or not doing what we should be doing. And the brain doesn't like that stillness. It's been conditioned to look for the next task and the next goal and the next visible sign that we're going somewhere. So when there isn't that, it starts to panic. And this is why you might feel restless or guilty or even ashamed, like you should be doing something, anything, to prove that you're still moving forward. And society reinforces that message. I mean, we are always celebrating hustle and achievement and reinvention. We don't really talk about the quiet in-between seasons. The times when you're not producing or proving yourself, you're just listening for what's next. And those moments, they don't really photograph well, they don't post well, so they start to feel invisible. I mean, what do you post on social media when you're going through a stuck period like this? Or what do you post when you're feeling like there's a pause in your life? Okay, everybody, I'm pausing right now. I mean, it's a difficult thing to even communicate to other people, which is another thing that can make us feel pretty alone in this whole period. Even though these pauses are a part of life that actually helps us reset our direction, it can feel really uncomfortable because we're fighting not only our own wiring, but a culture that's built around this constant acceleration. But what our lives are asking for in this kind of a transition time is stillness, long enough to remember where we're actually trying to go. It's asking for us to pause. It's asking for us to step away for a minute so that we can gain some distance to see where we really need to go next. Another reason these periods are difficult is because we're in the gap between identities. We've kind of outgrown who we were before, but we haven't really stepped in to who we're going to be yet. I mean, we might have started to go that direction, or we're starting to feel little pulls that direction, but we're still kind of in this old identity, even though we can feel we need to go to this new one. So we're in this in-between space, which is just uncomfortable. Every big change in our lives, whether it's a career shift or a relationship ending, or even just a quiet internal awakening, creates an identity gap. The version of you who fit your old life is already fading, but the version who belongs to what's next isn't fully formed yet. It's like moving out of one house into the next one before it's ready. So you're surrounded by boxes and half your stuff is in storage and nothing feels like home. That's what this phase is. It's like emotional relocation. And the worst part is no one else can really see it happening. From the outside, you look fine. You're just doing your thing. But inside, you're rebuilding from the ground up. And that's why it can feel so unsettling, because your inner landscape is shifting and your outer world hasn't quite caught up yet. I mean, it's almost easier to move from one house to another, from one place to another, than it is to move from one identity to another. Because when we're moving physically, it's in the outside world. We know we have to take this box from this place and put it in this place. But when we're changing internally, we don't know. What do I do now? What does this new version of me do? How does this new version of me get through the day? What routines does this new person have? I mean, there's all these unknowns that are there, which of course creates discomfort and stress and anxiety. We can't think through it because this kind of transformation isn't logical. It's not like a physical move. It's developmental. It takes time for the new identity to emerge and then to stabilize, and for our energy and our confidence and our purpose to click into place again. The good news is this gap isn't a void, it's actually a threshold. You're not this identity anymore, but you're not this new one yet anymore. You're on the threshold in between them. So it's not really like you're in a void. You're ready to step into this new sense of yourself. And the discomfort you feel is the space between who you've been and who you're becoming. It's the sound of your life reorganizing itself around the next version of you. Okay, so now you understand why this season feels so awful, but the real question is, what can you actually do about it? I've got some ideas for you, but before we talk about what to do, let's quickly talk about 2 things you should not do, because these are the mistakes that keep most people stuck far longer than they need to be. So number 1, don't rush into a decision just to escape this discomfort. When you're in this in-between space, the temptation to do something, anything, can feel overwhelming at times. You just want relief. So you start making moves that might feel like progress, like applying for random jobs or signing up for courses or saying yes to opportunities that don't really fit, anything to make the waiting stop. But here's the problem. When you make a decision just to end discomfort, you usually build your next chapter on fear or discomfort instead of clarity or alignment. And you end up recreating the same patterns you were trying to leave behind. So you're kind of like just taking a loop and coming back to the same place. Think of it like leaving a house that's being renovated because you can't stand the mess. So you move into a new one that's already finished, but it doesn't fit your life. You wanted that other house that was being renovated, but you traded chaos for control. And maybe you just didn't give yourself time that you needed to design the life you actually wanted. So if you're feeling restless, that's okay. Just don't confuse movement with alignment. The right next step isn't something you can force. It's something that's going to show up or emerge once you've learned what this season is trying to teach you. The other trap that's the opposite of that is not doing anything, just going kind of numb and saying, fine, if life wants to show me something, it can show me. I'm just going to sit here. So you wait, and weeks pass, and then months, and you keep hoping for a sign, but nothing seems to change. After pushing so hard for so long, it can feel really good just to stop trying. But there's a difference between rest and resignation. Rest restores you so that you can move again, but resignation convinces you that the movement doesn't matter. And if you stay in that place too long, feeling disconnected and checked out and just waiting for clarity to arrive, you're going to start to drift. You'll lose momentum, and the life that's trying to reach you won't be able to find you. Because if you do nothing, you go nowhere. And that stuck feeling, it stays. So if rushing forward into a decision that doesn't fit you doesn't work, but doing nothing does either, what does? That's where I want to take you next. 3 small shifts that'll help you start working with this in-between place, so you can start to feel like you're moving again, but moving in the right direction before the next chapter fully appears. The first thing you want to do is understand that your life is already talking to you. Even when it feels like nothing is happening, your life isn't really quiet. You just may not know how to hear it yet. Most of us expect direction to come in big dramatic ways. So like a clear sign or a sudden decision or a lightning bolt moment where everything finally makes sense. But that's not usually how it works. Life speaks in smaller ways. It moves through little patterns and coincidences and gut feelings and moments that catch your attention for no obvious reason. When you're frustrated or scared, though, it's easy to stop noticing these things. You get tunnel vision. You're looking for a map when what you really need is a conversation with your own life. That's what this in-between space is really about. Life is teaching you how to listen differently, how to notice what's pulling at you, what feels off, what sparks even the tiniest bit of curiosity. And once you start recognizing those signals, you realize something important, that maybe you never really were stuck. You just didn't understand the language yet. So once you understand that your life is talking to you, the key is to start by listening. But how do you do that? How do you listen to a language you don't understand? That's what we're going to talk about next. When we're trying to hear the signals life is sending us, it helps to start small. Listening isn't about sitting in silence and waiting for some epiphany. It's about paying attention to what actually happens when you move through your day. So you notice what pulls at you and what drains you, what conversations leave you a little bit more alive, and what situations make your chest tighten or your energy drop. Those are your clues. Your life usually doesn't speak in words, but in your reactions or in patterns or in how things feel. And the more you notice, the clearer that language becomes. For me, for example, I started realizing that certain kinds of work left me empty no matter how well they paid, while others made me lose track of time. That was life showing me where I was still aligned and where I wasn't. And I've seen the same thing happen to people in completely different situations. Someone I know, for example, kept getting random headaches every Sunday night before work until she finally admitted that she didn't really want to go back to this job. Another person found herself drawn to volunteer work that she swore she didn't have time for, but that eventually opened the door to a whole new career for her. And then there was someone who kept feeling tense, anxious every time she spent time with a certain friend, someone she'd known for years, and she couldn't figure out why, until she realized that that friendship had quietly shifted and it wasn't supportive anymore. Her body knew it long before her mind was ready to. That's what we're really talking about here. These little signals. Your life is constantly sending them and trying to help you move toward what's right for you now. And once you start catching those signals, things start to shift for you and you stop feeling stuck because now you're in conversation with your life again. And once that happens, that's when it gets exciting. That's where you start catching and tracking your signals. It's one thing to notice that your life is sending these signals, but if you only notice them once in a while, then they fade just as fast as they appear. And that's why most people stay stuck. They catch glimpses of meaning, but never long enough to understand what their life is trying to tell them. So you can't build a new direction on something that you're only half hearing. I mean, if you can imagine sitting with a friend at lunch and they're talking to you and suddenly you realize that your attention's drifting and you haven't heard like half of what they've said over the last 10 minutes, that's kind of what happens if you're not really paying attention to the signals your life is sending you and catching them. And what I mean by catching them is that you're writing them down. You're recording them. You're capturing the things in your life that feel oddly timed or emotionally charged or just keep repeating, because the first time you notice something, it might seem random. But by the third or fourth time, a pattern starts to emerge. And that's when your life starts to make sense again. This is why I created what I call the tracecraft system. It's built around 2 key practices, catching and tracking. Catching means you don't just let those small moments slip by unacknowledged. You grab them when they're fresh and you write them down somewhere, journal or a document. Tracking means you start to connect the dots over time, so you can see how those signals start building towards something bigger. Most of us think just being aware is enough. We notice a few, quote, signs and we have an aha moment and we think, okay, I got it, now off I go. But without tracking these signals, the insight is going to fade and you're going to forget what you felt or what you thought or that new idea that you had. The biggest reason why this happens is that these signals I'm talking about all come from your intuition, and most of us don't fully trust our intuition. We don't fully trust what we sense or what we feel. We've been taught that intuition is soft or unreliable or even a little bit woo-woo, even though science says it's a real mental system. So even though that's the case, most of us haven't been taught how to use our intuition. We haven't been taught how to interact with it so that we can use it to point ourselves in the new direction. So we hesitate. We want proof before we act. And that's why catching and tracking are so powerful, because they give you that proof. They give you the data. You start to see the data from your own life, patterns that after you've tracked them, you can't unsee them. And it makes it so much easier to trust your instincts because you're not just going on faith anymore. You're following real evidence that's right in front of you. And once you can trust what you're sensing and feeling and seeing, your life starts to move in ways that finally feel right. So what does this look like in real life when you actually start trusting what you're sensing and following those signals? Let me give you an example. There was someone I talked with recently who kept saying that she didn't know what she wanted to do next in her life. She'd been in the same job for years, and it was fine, but she felt that low-grade restlessness that just wouldn't go away. When she started catching and tracking her signals, a pattern began to show up, and she noticed that every time she helped a younger coworker navigate a tough conversation or rewrite something as simple as an email, she felt completely energized. But whenever she had to focus on spreadsheets or strategy meetings, she felt this heavy drop in her chest. At first, she would brush this off. She told herself it didn't mean anything, that everyone likes helping people now and then. But the pattern kept showing up, so she wrote it down. She tracked it. And over time, she started to see it for what it was. It was her life showing her the direction that she was supposed to go next. A few months later, she enrolled in a coaching certification program. Not because some big sign told her to, but because she'd gathered enough evidence from her own life to trust what she was feeling. That's what happens when you start catching and tracking. You stop waiting for certainty, and instead, you start to build it, one signal at a time. So this week, I'd love for you to start your own investigation. Pick one area of your life where you feel the most stuck right now. That could be your work or a relationship or your creative life, whatever feels like it's not moving. And then for the next 7 days, start catching every small thing that grabs your attention in that area and write it down. Anything that repeats, anything that gives you a physical reaction, anything that makes you say, that's kind of weird, or that just grabs your attention. Don't try to interpret it yet, just collect the evidence. And at the end of the week, or 2 weeks is even better, look back at what you've written and see if you see any patterns, if you see any connections. You might be surprised at how the clearer the pattern is once you see it all in front of you, because that's the moment when you realize that your life hasn't been quiet at all. It's been talking to you the whole time. If you'd like something to help you do this, I've created the Signal Decoder System Starter Kit, where I take you through all of these steps: catching, the tracking, and the finding the patterns in the data that you record so that you can better see what step you need to take next. If you're interested in that, you can grab it at the link below. I think it'll really help you if you're in this kind of a transition place. The good news is that your life never really stops moving. It just pauses long enough for you to kind of catch up, for you to listen and to notice and to realign with where it's trying to take you next. If you're in that in-between space right now, it doesn't mean that you're lost or you're doing something wrong. It simply means that something new is trying to emerge, and your only job is to stay curious enough to catch the clues. If you like this video, please like and subscribe and share it with a friend if you think it might help them. And remember, your life is planning something, so you might as well start eavesdropping. Check out the other video I have coming up for you on the end screen, and I'll see you next time.